Fox has taken me into a trip to the X-Men universe, and I am completely excited. Let's talk about it.
And I'm like, come on through, Cookie. I want to put my soapbox. That's basically it. Let's talk about drag and all its forms. What, Cookie?
Hey guys, thanks so much for clicking on this video. I definitely want to sit here and talk to you guys about a new show that's actually on Fox, which is actually called The Gifted. And yes, it is actually all set and done in the X-Men universe. And I am like completely here for it, completely excited. I've been waiting for a couple of months for this to actually come out. And I am really, really happy with the results. You know, it's a touchy subject to be playing around in that X-Men world, because weekly shows, the budget has to be a certain type of way for it to actually go off and work and not be corny. You know what I mean? And to be engaging. I think the last time that they got close was really with Heroes, when they did Heroes, and I got bored with Heroes. It was, I don't know. The Heroes worked for a lot of people. I was cool for about 2 episodes, then I was kind of done. The Gifted, I am here for it. Let's talk about what's going on. So we first start off, we have a mother and a father are actually meeting with school personnel about some bullying that's actually taking place with their son, Andy. And he's really an introvert. He's an artist. He draws and different things like that. So that made me look at Andy right away and say, okay. So I'm looking at him, and he's doing his little thing, and that's that. It doesn't take you very long before you figure out that it's actually done in the X-Men universe, because there's this whole thing about mutants and they're outcasts, and when you get into it, you figure out that the X-Men are actually, everybody knows of the X-Men, but the X-Men are not around. They have basically disappeared. It's basically the time after the Sentinels have actually come into play, and there's a whole Sentinel services and all of this. So this is basically after, you know, the X-Men are here. Everybody knows who they are. The mutants are, there are mutants that are in hiding. That whole thing. And that's how it all ended up happening, where you all know the X-Men story. If you go back to the last X-Men movie, where there was the big fight between the bad X-Men and the good X-Men, and a lot of humans perished in the interim, you know, from them fighting and battling. So it's that whole thing. So we found out that the little boy's being bullied by some boys in the school. The father is really no nonsense. We found out later that he's actually a district attorney, and he actually works for like mutant services. He prosecutes mutants, and they take them and they lock them up and all of this kind of carrying on. So they actually basically throw him into mutant jail. He works for them. The mother, she's basically a stay-at-home wife. So that whole thing's going on. Then Andy has a sister. Her name is Laura. She's about 16 or so, 15, 16. And we get right into it. Let's hold them to the side for a minute. Let's go. There's this chase that's going on. This is when we start to see the life of a mutant. This girl, she's like an Asian girl, pretty girl, but her eyes are green, 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 like alien green, very mystique, but green. But everything else about her is really normal. She can teleport. She can teleport basically like Nightcrawler, similar to Nightcrawler. And she's on the run. She's on the run from the police. The police are after her. And in the midst of that, there's the resistance. Okay, basically. The resistance, they're tracking her at the same time. And she gets away from the cops, and the resistance, they basically found her. Two of them, the main ones, there's Marcos and Lorna. And Marcos basically has power of heat and light. He can actually like throw heat and light. I don't know that he can actually throw it. Let me take that back. I know he can create like real bright light with his hands, and I think it's like on his inner. It's on his inner self, and he can heat you up. If he touches you, he can heat your ass up real quick. Lorna is sort of like a female Magneto almost. She has like anything that is like metal, she can manipulate. So you got them two, and then you have, I can't think of his name, but he's a Native American, and he's real fast, and he's very strong. He is like superhuman strength, and he can like touch things and see into the near past and the near future. So he's really interesting, and I've seen him in the comic book before because he actually has a it's like a tattoo basically of, it looks like an eagle or something, but it lights up whenever he's doing his thing. But real interesting character. So they're working together, and they find her. They go to into this house. They, are convincing her of who they are. You know the whole drill. And the police basically lock them in, and they're like, okay, they're getting their asses the hell out of there. They basically, you see them doing all their powers. They moving cars and all of this, and they're getting themselves out of there. In the midst of getting out of there, one of the police actually shoots Marcos in the arm. And that just flares Lorna up. And we found out later Marcos and Lorna are lovers, okay? That flares her up, baby. And that's when you really get to see how she really can move things that are metal. Because there was like two cops. And, cops all have all that metal stuff on. Baby, she was taking him and giving him bam, 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 slamming him up against, slamming him up against the wall and slamming him up against the garbage can, tearing their asses up. So that was that. But in the midst of all of it, they ended up tasing her and all of this. They end up capturing Lorna. Everybody else gets away. They go back to their little hideout space and all of this. While all this is going on over at the family, there's a party at the school. So a little boy sneaks out. He's about 14. He sneaks out and gets in the car and goes with his sister to the party. The mother thinking he at home. He at the party. They're just at the party, chilling, having a good time. And he's basically to himself, ends up seeing the boys that be bullying him. And they end up taking him and take him into the locker room. Whereas, because he's like, are y'all really going to do this? Like, y'all want to beat me up and pick at me? Well, I don't think they had ever actually beaten him up. They were really just antagonizing him. And his schoolwork was paying for it. So that's kind of what was happening. And that's how, faculty seen what was kind of going on. And then he told the parents what was going on, whatever. So they were pissed. Because at this point, faculty had called their houses because of what happened earlier that day. So they took him into the shower room, and now they're going to beat him up. They're going to beat him up and stuff. And end up taking him and got him in the middle of the shower area and turns the water on him. So he's like getting pissed off. And then they make the dire mistake of turning the hot water. They're going to, turn this hot water and going to burn him. They're going to burn him with this hot water. Well, baby, they shouldn't have did it because that ignited his X chromosome. And I'm not real sure exactly what his power is, but he's very destructive. He's very angry, and his power comes on by anger. Because, a lot of the mutants, their powers will come to life. It's generally from your inner feelings, but it's usually like when they're scared or sometimes when they're angry. Those are the most dangerous mutants because a lot of them can't control it, like Wolverine, even Jean Grey. when they're angry, they can't control or contain. And that's what used to make Jean Grey so dangerous. That's why, see, I'm getting off topic, but that's why Professor X had to actually lock her parts of her brain out to keep her from going, because she's like the most powerful mutant, and her and Storm, and she can't control it. You know, she got some mental illness issues and she can't control it. She got some anger issues. But anyway, okay, so back off my soapbox, but bam, and we're back. Okay, so this was going on with little Andy. Little Andy done got mad, baby, and when I tell you he tore the shower room and their asses up. Bammed them, slammed them. I mean, he was doing this thing and everything started moving. It was like Carrie. Like the whole, where he was and the whole rest of the building was just being torn apart. You know, there was lighting fixtures falling. He was like, so much energy coming from him that the tiles were actually popping off the walls. And literally, like, he's sitting and he's zoned out at this point, and he's just yelling and screaming, and it's like this rage in him. He's sitting in the middle. There's like two things where the shower heads come up like this. They ended up literally bending back and just bending back overwards the opposite way. Like, he was just tearing shit up. Now, in the process, there was a boy, the girl has a boyfriend. The boyfriend's trying to get her out. And she's like, no, I got to get my brother. She saw him being drugged into the shower thing. So she runs back there to get him. And this is when we find out. See, because Andy didn't know he was a mutant. He had actually made some comments earlier. It was like a prejudice type of situation where he said something about mutants. And the sister was like, hey, watch that. That's kind of prejudice or whatever. Goes on. The sister, she's a mutant, but she knows that she's a mutant, but she hasn't told anybody. Okay? And especially because, you know, they know that the father is completely against it. So she's running back to get him, and that's how we end up seeing that she can do some stuff, because there was a lighting fixture that was like falling over, and she did one of these, and it just kind of went the other way. I said, oh, come on, girl, let's go. And then she's running, and she has this little thing she does. She could create force fields, but they look like honeycombs, kind of. They look like honeycombs, and they're kind of blurred. You can't really see through them. It kind of blurs it. And it's very, very a la Invisible Girl, but she got good control over it. She's not real strong, but I can imagine that as she gets older, she's probably going to get really strong with it. But that's how she ended up helping to get her brother out. That's how they got out of that gym. They literally, you know, she was holding things over their head to keep things from falling on them. And she had to literally snap him out of that trance he was in to get him to stop. But by the time he stopped, shit was still just falling because he had damaged the building so badly by that point. But anyway, they got out and all of that. They run home. They get home. Didn't take very long. They end up telling the mom what's going on. And the mom is giving very much what's going on, and she's giving it to her son. And I'm gonna talk about this in a minute, about the X-Men universe and my personal connection to the X-Men universe. And I know anybody who's watched any X-Men movies can actually make the correlation of why it's so relatable to me, but I'm gonna talk about it in a second. Anyway, they go on, and the mother's telling them, boy, have you ever tried, you know, we've heard this in a movie before, haven't you ever tried not to be, you know, this, that, and the other. And he's like, he didn't even know that it was going on, but it is what it is. The sister ends up giving the mother, hey, it is what it is. This why ain't nobody tell you nothing. And she's like, well, how do you know? She's like, I know because I'm a mutant too. How do you think we got out of the gym? And the mother's like, oh my God. And she's sitting there, and in the midst of her just getting this together, because she had, you know, the parents basically already had a prejudice toward mutants pretty much. And she jumped right in and was like, you know what, it don't matter. There's my kids, and it is what it is. So she's, there's a knock at the door. She ends up going to the door. And let's just stop, hold right there, and let me talk about this real fast because I don't want to get off topic whenever I get on there. So there's a knock on the door. She's just finding out the 2 kids, both her children are mutants. So she's actually dealing with that. This is why this is so relatable. For me, the X-Men situation, the whole Stan Lee created world of the X-Men, it is very much a play off of homosexuality. Very much a play off of it. And when you look at it, there's mutants in the X-Men that can hide that they're mutants, that you can't tell by looking at them that they're mutants, but then there are other ones that can't hide it. It's not socially acceptable. There are people who have extreme prejudice against them. It always comes down to a lot of them have been, shunned by their families and disowned, put away. People did experiments on the whole thing of the X-Men. And I don't know if you've ever, people who have been with the X-Men, I'm sure they've actually figured that out. But the whole thing of the X-Men, for as long as it's existed, has always mirrored the life of a homosexual. Again, we come in all different shapes, sizes, and forms. Some of us can hide it. Some of us can't. Some of us choose to hide it. Some of us don't. But it is very much that way. So it's very much relatable. But anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there. So if you write it in the comments, put it in the comments. I know y'all talk about it in the comments. Have you ever noticed that's what actually goes on with the X-Men comics and that whole thing, that is literally a mirror image of homosexuality? Okay, anyway. All right, so back to this little show here. So they go to the door, and it's not just regular cops now, it's Sentinel services, okay? Which is more or less, Sentinel services is on a federal level, so it's kind of like the FBI as opposed to the regular cops in your neighborhood, okay? So they're there, and they're like, okay, they already knew that it was the 2 kids. And I guess from, cell phones and whatever, they kind of seen them moving about, or footage on site. And they were coming for the kids. And she's like, okay, well, no, you can't just come in. They end up knocking the mother down, coming in, no warrant. They come through like the FBI. They ain't no warrant. Damn all that. We came for them. We're going to take them. Don't worry about it. We're going to take them. And that didn't work. Because, it don't matter what we got going on. You know how little boys are about their mothers? When they knocked the mother down, baby, that Andy told them, don't you knock my mother down, get away from my mother, and get out of our house, honey. And they were sitting looking at him, and they didn't have all their backup and everything ready because they're kids. So they come and just grab him up. Baby, he got the house, got to shaking. Baby, he was getting ready to do them. So they had to snap him back real quick and so come on here. So they had to make a break, and they had to run and get out. They made an escape between the little boy and the sister, and they ended up getting out. And that was the other thing, that the sister brought the mother to, she's like, do you remember a couple years, like 3 years ago? So it's like 3 years. She's been a mutant for 3 years. She was telling her, do you remember when we were in the car, we were getting ready to have that car accident, and you kept saying it was an act of God? That wasn't an act of God. That was me. And they kind of showed a flashback where there was a car, and I guess the driver was either drunk or lost control of their car, and the car was literally coming straight for him. It was almost a head-on collision. Well, girlfriend moved the car. And all this time, the mother thought that it was just something miraculous. Well, it was something miraculous, but it wasn't God, baby. It was your little gifted child that was in the back seat. So that was that. I love this little show. But anyway, so they make a break for it. They get going there where they're at. They end up getting in touch with the father. At the same time, while they're getting in touch with the father is actually meeting up with Lorna. Lorna's actually, they got her in this little thing like they usually have Magneto, and it's all plastic and everything. And he ends up going behind the plastic because he's not afraid. He's just big, bold, buff, bad, and tough. He go back there, baby, and she said, you must have had an old sports injury, because they was like, you have attempted, the charges here are real bad on you. It's like attempted murder. of 2 policemen. And she's like, I did not attempt to murder them. If I wanted to murder them, they'd be dead. And she told him, you must have a sports injury from back in the day. And he's looking at her, baby, he got pins in his knee. And she gave, honey, and he was giving, ooh, honey. I said, uh-huh. And he's like, and she's like, so you see, if I wanted them dead, they would have been dead. So he pulls out this paperwork and he tells her, you know, you just let me help you. Maybe we can get the charges lessened, you know, playing DA. And she's like, whatever. So when he shows her the paperwork, she just kind of looking. And then you see her, he's like, see, there's a lot at stake here. And he walks back out of the thing, locks it back up. And that's when you see, like, you can see her getting emotional. She gets real mad, and you start seeing sparks flying and stuff, because then she's like, I said, oh, here we go. And then we ended up finding out later about that. I'm going to tell you about that in a second. So, the mother gets to touch with the father. They end up meeting up. He's like, oh my God, you know, this, that, thing, and the other. And they're like, well, we didn't know what to do, this, that, and the other. He's like, hey, my family comes first. It is what it is. Oh, well, my kids are mutants. I'm going to protect my family. Don't care. I don't care a damn what I do as a job. I was like, okay, come on, for the good parents. And they were on the run. They needed to go somewhere else where the mutant laws were not that tough. So they want to make this break to get away to Mexico. So you see them, actually, the Sentinel services end up the very next day. They're at the job site looking through the DA's stuff. He has a friend that he called a black woman. He ended up calling a favor in from her. He wanted this certain file. She got the file. It was basically Lorna's file. She gets the file for him and everything. He ends up getting it. That's the way he ended up being able to get in touch with Marcos and them. And he tells them, you know, I know you're the resistance, this, that, thing, and the other. I'm asking a favor. This is what I can do for you. I know where she is, this, that, thing, and the other. So Marcos had already been trying to figure out a way to get in to get Lorna. And he was saying, what about the girl who teleports? She's like, I can't. It's just like Nightcrawler. She's like, it's dangerous if I try to go in somewhere where I don't know where I'm going, or somewhere I've never seen. Because there's a lot of electro stuff going on, and kind of you can get sliced up. So Marcos ended up going and said he was going to have a meeting with the father. So he sets up this meeting. They're staying at a hotel, the mother, the father, and the 2 kids. They were outside. They were Laura was trying to kind of show Andy some things about how to control his power. And she was telling them, you know, this is the kind of feeling I get when it gets ready to get started. She was working with him. Charlie blew up a whole damn vending machine. Blew it up and split it in half, okay? So, because again, once he gets into it, it's his rage. It's his anger starts his stuff, just like Wolverine, but he ends up going straight from anger to rage real fast, and then he can't control it. So that was that whole thing. But at this point, they end up noticing that there was drones outside. So they're like, it's only a matter of time before the drones pick up on the car that they were in. So they ended up escaping again and stealing this truck. They stole the truck, switched over, got a car. You know, they're just on the run. And they're supposed to be meeting up. So they end up meeting up with Marcos. The dad does. They end up talking. The dad's like, help us get across the Mexican border. They're like, we got some friends down there, this, that, thing, the other. And of course, in the beginning, he was like really leery. He didn't really want to work with him. But he's like, okay, cool. And that's what he told him. I'm not going to give you everything I know about Lorna and how to get her and all of that until you make sure my family's safe. And then that's when we found out what was actually on the papers. Lorna is actually pregnant, and it's Marcos's baby. So now it's even more important to get to Lorna, okay? So we got all that going on. So they go to the meetup spot. They meet up that night. Marcos was gone for like an hour. He was gone for like an hour, and he hadn't come back. He hadn't told anybody else about where he was going. The only person that knew was the Asian girl. And she ended up going and telling the Native American guy. And he's like, God damn it. He's like, come on, we're going to go find him. She's like, I don't even know where he is. He's like, didn't I find you? I'll be able to find him. Trust me. So they end up going, and it was a good thing they actually showed up, because here, some kind of way, the Sentinels had actually found and tracked the family to the meetup, and they were getting ready to get them. And they was like, okay, and they had these little things, this little Sentinel situation. They had their little backup things. They had these little drone things that looked like spiders. They were in these boxes, and they ended up like being in this warehouse, and they're like running around, and they set these things free, and them things were like after them. And they were like spiders, and I think they were more or less at this point not really trying to catch them, but more or less trying to kill them. Because you know that's what the Sentinels do. The Sentinels actually destroy mutants. And that's the thing. It ain't about them taking you into custody. They generally destroy. That's what the Sentinels are known for doing. Destroying. So, them things were after them. Here, the Asian girl and the Native American guy, they show up and they're like, bam, come on, they helping them. And they're all like at the point of getting out, and they were making their way. And yeah, you know what? I take it back. That's right. Marcos can throw the light somewhat, but it's not really all that powerful. It's not powerful like Cyclops type of light. So he was kind of handling, but all he could do with the things from the Sentinels is slow them down. It would like, he would hit them and they would regroup, and you would see the lights flash and they would go into a different sector and they would start right back up again. Now, Andy had, when him and the mother and the sister was trying to escape, he got so mad at himself because he froze. He was afraid and he froze. So it went from rage to being afraid. He froze up and he couldn't do anything. Well, this time they were all trying to get away, this, that, and the other. And they're like, they got backed into a wall, and they had the Asian girl that said, you gotta port us. You've got to teleport us or we're going to die. That's just all there's to it. And she's like, okay, so naturally they got to go somewhere. But again, they could just take them right to the Resistance because she knows where that is. So she creates this port. She's having a hard time, but they're all doing their stuff. The girl's creating force fields trying to hold them, but, you know, again, she's not real strong. She never had to do this stuff like this. And the girl creates the portal. They get through. Most of them get through the portal. And the last ones left is Andy and the dad. And Andy's trying to do something, and you're looking at him, and that's when you get to see how powerful Andy's actually, that his little ass is. Because where there were like maybe 6 of those spider things at this point, where they were like, they get ready to get us, honey. He took them, and where Marcos was only able to stun them, when I tell you, Andy literally blew them up, like blew them up into like little pieces, blew their asses up. I said, okay, Andy. And by that time, they had been held up long enough for the cops and all of them to actually catch up. They ended up, everybody got through the portal. He pushes, and the dad pushes Andy through the portal. The dad's the only one on the other side, and they shot him and they stunned him, like stun gunned him in the back, and he couldn't get through the portal, and the portal ended up closing. She couldn't hold it no more, and the portal ended up closing. So now the Sentinel Services actually has the dad, and the Resistance has the family. I'm like, oh my gosh. And this is where it actually went off. This was all the first episode. Look, I didn't talk for like almost 28 minutes, but it was so good. It was so good. It was just like in a movie. Like, I did not want it to end. I was like, oh, man. So I am definitely here for this. Anybody who does the X-Men or kind of likes X-Men, trust me, you want to watch The Gifted. It's Monday nights on Fox. It is really, really good. I was really impressed with this, and I will definitely be watching. I will definitely be reviewing. So that is that. Thank you guys for watching. Yeah, I like this show. Real good stuff. All right, guys, I will talk to you soon. Bye.